You walk into a room 5 minutes late. Suddenly, every head turns. There is a coffee stain on your sleeve and sweat is dripping down your forehead. In this moment, it feels like everyone is recording every flaw. But look at what actually happened. Maybe two people glanced up. One of them was looking at the door because they were expecting someone else. Think about the last time you were in an elevator with a stranger. Can you remember the color of their shoes or if they looked tired? Probably not. You were likely thinking about where you were going or an email you forgot to send. To that stranger, however, that elevator ride might have been a source of intense self-consciousness. They might have spent 10 minutes choosing their outfit or worrying that their cologne was too strong. You missed all of it. We are all walking around trapped in the same illusion. We treat others as background scenery in our own movies, yet our brains insist that we are the stars of theirs, performing on a lit stage for an audience that isn't actually watching. In 2000, psychologist Thomas Gilovich and his team at Cornell University set out to measure the exact gap between how much we think we are noticed and the reality of human attention. The experiment was simple. They asked students to put on a t-shirt featuring a large photograph of Barry Manilow. For a college student at the time, this was the social equivalent of wearing a sign that said, "Please judge me." The students wore the shirt into a room where their peers were already sitting, stayed briefly, and then left. When asked how many people in the room noticed the shirt, the students assumed they were highly visible. On average, they guessed that 50% of the room had spotted Barry Manilow's face. But when researchers interviewed the audience, the reality was much lower. Fewer than 25% of the people actually noticed the shirt. The wearers believed they were twice as visible as they truly were. Gilovich found this same result when testing for positive attention. Whether students wore flattering shirts featuring Bob Marley or Martin Luther King Jr., they consistently overestimated how much they stood out. Psychologists call this phenomenon the spotlight effect. This glitch happens because of anchoring. You experience the world from exactly one perspective, your own. You feel your own nervousness and see every blemish in the mirror. When you try to estimate what others see, you start your guess from the maximum intensity of your own self-awareness. You know you're biased, so you try to slide down the scale to adjust for other people's perspectives, but the adjustment is never enough. You remain anchored to your own vivid experience, assuming your internal feelings are radiating outward for everyone to see. This bias likely persists because for most of human history, humans lived in small tribes of 50 to 150 people. In that world, your reputation was a survival tool. Being seen as weak or strange meant being pushed away from the safety of the group. Our brains evolved to assume the worst, because back then, being wrong about whether someone was watching could be fatal. We now live in a world of 8 billion strangers, but we are still running that ancient software. Gilovich and his colleague Kenneth Savitsky eventually discovered that this illusion extends past our physical appearance and into our internal emotions. They called it the illusion of transparency, the belief that our internal states are visible on our faces. We assume that when we are anxious, others can see our fear as clearly as we feel it. To test this, they had people give speeches while feeling nervous. The speakers were convinced their internal terror was obvious to everyone in the room. In reality, the audience barely registered any anxiety at all. They saw the same pattern with taste. Participants who tasted disgusting, bitter drinks were certain observers could read the reaction on their faces. The observers, however, could barely tell which drink was which. Your inner world is more hidden than it feels. The anxiety pulsing in your chest or the embarrassment that makes your ears burn is almost entirely invisible to the outside world. In 2003, Savitsky and Gilovich ran a follow-up study to see if simply understanding these biases could change how people perform. They took a group of people about to give a speech and told half of them about the illusion of transparency before they went on stage. The results showed that knowing the truth actually improves performance. As this graph shows, the speakers who were told their nervousness was invisible were rated significantly higher by the audience in terms of confidence and composure. Just knowing they weren't being read made them better at the task. Modern social media can make the spotlight feel more intense. When we see follower counts, view metrics, and the constant potential for a post to be shared or critiqued, it provides a concrete number for our brains to attach to the feeling of being watched. But the data still holds. You might agonize over a caption for 20 minutes, but most people on your feed scroll past it in seconds. They aren't studying your life, they are thinking about what they should post next. We spend a massive amount of energy managing an audience that barely exists. This bias shows up in every hand we didn't raise, every idea we didn't share, and every conversation we avoided because we were afraid of being seen failing. Because the research shows the spotlight is a biological lie, you are free to stop performing. You can ask the question that might sound stupid, or try the thing you might fail at. If the audience isn't watching as closely as you think, then the risk of being noticed is much smaller than your brain suggests.